afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out to this presentation, and thank you to the Smithsonian for inviting me to talk about nature restoration, and especially shout out to my good friend Carrie Ritter, who I know got me on this stage today, so thank you, Carrie. I am going to talk about, I've just been to the Science March, so it is firmly with my tongue in my cheek that I say that restoration is magical. Everybody loves magic. I have a little niece, she's 8 years of age, her name is Baven, and Baven is one of those shy, reticent 8-year-olds. But last year on the streets of Dublin, she engaged with the street magician in a way I had never seen before. She was talking to him, telling him names, helping him with the tricks, and of course buying the tricks to drive us all crazy over Christmas when we got home. But magic is something that, people embrace. And what magic is, it's a way of thinking about things in a different way. It's about shifting perceptions. It's about something that wasn't there appearing suddenly, and it's about something that is here disappearing suddenly. So there's a lot of similarities with nature restoration. Nature restoration is about something appearing that wasn't there before, and it's about slight shifts of perceptions and how you can see place in a different way. And so I want to talk very briefly about 3 habitat restoration programs carried out by businesses, one in Mexico, one in Northwest Indiana, and one in Maryland. And each one of those, to me, is magical. So I was in Mexico last year at the COP for the CBD, and I got an opportunity to go to Playa del Carmen. Playa del Carmen, as most of you know, is a resort. I was not there for the resort. I was there for the quarry that is slap bang in the middle of the Mexican forest, also in the middle of one of the busiest tourist destinations in the Caribbean. 12 million tons of limestone are carted off this quarry every year. We met with the restoration biologist, Hazen Gonzalez. Now, Jesus's whole thing is about pushing restorations to its boundaries. It's about exceeding the expectations of the Mexican government. It's about seeing what he can do with the land that he is recovering. My Spanish is predictably terrible. Jesus's English was not very good. So we were joined by Dr. Omar. Dr. Omar was the medical doctor on site at the quarry. So poor Dr. Omar had to translate technical ecological restoration terms from Spanish into English, which I'm sure gave him much more of a headache than anything else he does in his job. So we were walking along, we were looking at the forest, we were looking at these great nests, and Jesus is saying, we put sticks in the ground. We just put sticks in the ground and the forest grows up. And I'm looking at Dr. Omar and said, he said sticks? What do you mean you're putting sticks in the ground? And he confers with Jesus, and Jesus says, yes, sticks. This is what we put in the ground. So he brought us over to the edge of this quarry. And what is there is a load of mulch and a load of sticks. The mulch is what's taken from the quarry before the quarry is extracted. It's basically a massive seed bomb that is stored until the restoration happens. And it's spread as the restoration is done. And the sticks are absolutely exactly what they are, sticks. They're branches that are taken off trees and stuck in the ground. No root powder, no fertilizers, nothing. And as we moved down the restoration project, we saw these sticks. They begin to bud, they begin to grow. And as we move down in time through this forest, we're seeing these sticks become the trees. We're seeing the mulch blossom into this amazing understory. And now, when I came back to the office, of course, I discovered there's a scientific reason. It's buds beneath the bark that start to bud when trees are disturbed. But standing in that quarry, looking at the landscape, looking at the forest, moving into a climax forest, purely based on sticks and mulch, that seemed like magic to me. So the next one, we do a lot of work in broken places. I work with corporations. Corporations have done businesses in industrial areas, rural areas, suburban areas, and there's a lot of broken places around industrial sites. And nature can really, really make a difference in these places. We have a site in Maryland, outside of Baltimore, and it was a toxic Superfund site. polyvinyl chloride sludge was dumped there for decades. It was dumped there when we didn't know that polyvinyl chloride sludge was bad for the earth, or we didn't care that polyvinyl chloride sludge was bad. So the EPA and the responsible party, which was Bridgestone Tires, got together to negotiate what they should do. And like any negotiation between a big corporation and a government agency, it took a long time. And as time was going on, it was discovered from the people that were monitoring the landscape that nature had decided to get in the way. Natural attenuation was happening. So the soils, the toxins in the soils, the pollutants in the soils were being broken down by the bacteria in the soil and made into harmless byproducts. So Bridgestone said, oh, we can save a lot of money if we can do the natural attenuation. And EPA said, we can save a lot of time and get this site back to the community quicker. And the community said, well, you can stop destroying our property and putting a cap on it if we allow nature take its way. Now, all of these things, bioremediation, bioaugmentation, phytoremediation, all of these are very, very, very deeply scientific things. But when you go to this landfill today, it's not fenced off. There's no cap on it. None of the topsoil was taken out. The forest is still intact. The wetlands are still intact. It's a magical place that the community love and embrace very much. It saved a lot of money for Bridgestone, but it also got that site back to productive community use as a facility and a resource for a community that doesn't have a lot. So my last one is my favorite story. This is a piping plover chick. You all know that, right? Everybody knows this is a piping plover chick. Somebody definitely knows it. Piping plovers, they're not a charismatic megafauna. They're just little shorebirds that are endangered in this country. There's two populations. One population flies up the east coast of the US. One population flies up the middle. There's 6,000 birds left. The birds overwinter in the Gulf of Mexico, in Florida, and the Bahamas. Every spring, they come up the east coast of the US. They see pristine, empty, barrier beaches the whole way up. They come up to the Great Lakes. They see pristine, empty beaches. They lay their eggs, perfectly camouflaged in the sand. What happens? Memorial Day. Memorial Day happens, the beaches become packed. This is the biggest threat to the recovery of the piping plover. So the piping plovers on the beaches of southern Lake Michigan, they found a new place to live, and it's a steel mill. So this guy called Rob Maciel, he's a steel mill worker, and he's everything you think of as a steel mill worker. He's big, he's abrupt, he's got a heart of gold. He took 40-foot slag heaps of 40 acres of his steel mill and restored it into habitat for endangered species like the piping plover. And that habitat is actually healthier, better habitat than right across the fence line on the other side, which is the National Dunes Recreation Area of the Indiana Dunes region. Because everybody from Chicago goes to the dunes, but nobody can go on the steel mill. So with the backdrop of blast furnaces and signs to say, if sirens go off, leave the property, and the inability to get out of the bus unless you're wearing steel-toed boots, we have this pristine 40 acres of piping plover habitat. And I was there in July, and there was an American kestrel hovering over the place. It was buzzing with pollinators. And that, to me, was truly and absolutely magical. So when you get out of the way, when we get out of the way and let nature take its course, we can give it a push start, we can do whatever we want to help it along. But when we actually step out of the way, nature has a tenacity. It has an exuberance. And when it's allowed to return to the broken places that we have all over the world, it can make a huge difference. Thank you very much.